Hola amigos de Enter.CO, estoy con Monika Lee. Monika, say hi please.
Hi, please? Oh, no, you
Hi
say
please.
please. I say
Oh,
hi.
yeah, you say hi. Bueno, Mónica es una cosplayer desde el 2006, cuando tenía más o menos como 14 años. Ella es de Atlanta, Georgia, y ha ganado varios premios y reconocimientos por sus cosplays en eventos como el Dragon Con, el Anime Weekend de Atlanta, el Katsucon y el MomoCon.
I actually started when I was 13 years old, so just a year earlier. But it was mostly I was really big into anime at the time. I loved Naruto and Bleach and Sailor Moon and all of those. And so just looking through videos and stuff online, I found this group in Texas that did like cosplay parodies of like Kingdom Hearts and Naruto and Bleach, and I thought it was so cool. And I was like, hey, these guys dress up like their favorite characters and they run around as them. Like that's a thing that people do. And for me, it's almost become kind of like my version of prom. So instead of dressing up with the fancy dresses and the bouquet and nerd costumes. Well, I still like anime now, but I kind of drifted away from anime to video games because I've been playing video games all my life. I had like a Sega Genesis, and then I had my Super Nintendo, and around that time, I think was when I first got my PS2. And since I'd gotten that, I was playing video games all the time, and the more I played it, the less I watched anime and read manga. And so now all I do is play video games. So to me, it makes more sense to, like I want to cosplay the characters I love. And if I'm more engaged with video games and video game characters, I'm more likely to be cosplaying from those. And so that's why video games all the time. Everyone always asks me that, and I'm like, I did all my costumes for a reason, either because I liked the character or because I liked making it. And so in my mind, I love them all. There may be some I like wearing more than another one, but for the most part, I love them all.
And which have you seen is the one that people like the most? Like your followers, which is the
I
one
would say from like prints being sold as well as like reception online and in person. My Rogue does really well, which is funny because it's she's a pretty old character, like I don't know, like 70s, 80s. And it's like no cleavage or skin showing, yet something about Rogue, people just go bananas over. They're like, oh my god, Rogue! And they just flip out. And I'd say of all my costumes, I think that one is the one that people are just like, oh my god, there's Rogue. And I'm like, all right, cool. But people love the Bioshock stuff too, because Bioshock is the greatest game ever. But I would say Rogue, hands down, is my most popular one amongst people. Yeah. So right now I'm in crunch mode working on my Demon Hunter from Diablo 3. And I'm a huge Diablo Blizzard fan. I love those guys. And I've always wanted to make a Demon Hunter, but as I said before, the armor really scares me. So, let's see, 3 days a week, 4 days a week I'm at school doing my school stuff, and then immediately when the weekend hits, I run home because, I live in a really small apartment on campus, and I run to my family's house, and then I go to my room, and I'm working on my cosplay nonstop. So that's how it's been for the past couple of weeks. But beside that, I'm going to try and have that for BlizzCon, which is Blizzard's own big convention in Anaheim. And then me and my two friends are going to try to do a Sailor Moon group because Sailor Moon's awesome.
Sailor Moon, cool.
Sailor Mars, that's me. I already got my wig, so almost there. I would say probably the latter, because I never took any classes or learned from any professional person. It's more of I just kind of taught myself. And I went online a lot because I was like, how do I do so-and-so? And that's just literally how I taught myself. Like, I didn't know how to install a zipper, so I went online and found a tutorial. And for me, I think it's a lot easier to learn how to sew because you could easily get fabric. And, a sewing machine is expensive, but once you have one, you're good to go. Whereas if you're learning how to sculpt and cast something, you're constantly buying those materials, and it's so expensive. So as much as I'd want to learn how to do it, it's too expensive for me to experiment with. So that's why like Warbla is a really good alternative because compared to other materials, it's fairly cheap. And if you mess up, you could just kind of put it in a ball and start over. So Yeah. Usually, if you're a beginner, I try and tell people, go to Google and look up things because nowadays it's really easy to make a cosplay, especially if you're just starting. Because people will put up a tutorial for an entire costume. Like, here's how to make an ENTER.CO costume from Assassin's Creed. And it's just like step-by-step tutorials. And not only that, the resources are really very readily available. Like, back in the day, there used to be maybe like 2 wig shops you could buy from online, and now like there's wig stores everywhere, and you could find wigs just anywhere online, and just like cosplay supplies are really readily available. But I think if you kind of want to up your game, I definitely say talk to more people and experiment more, like step out of the box. Like for me, I was like, I'm never gonna do armor, it's too scary, and now I'm like, okay, I gotta stop being a pussy and go make some armor. So I looked up, like, my friend Svetlana does a ton of Warble tutorials because she just makes armor all the time. And so I like watched her videos like for like hours and just like memorized what she did, and now I'm making armor. So there's video tutorials, there's picture tutorials on DeviantArt, like there's just Google because it's everywhere. There's this
How do they
website
work?
called cosplaysupplies.com, and they sell a ton of different thermoplastics to use. And so thermoplastic essentially is you heat it up and it becomes pliable. But these ones are more so that you could use even like a hair dryer or a heat gun, and they get really pliable very quickly. And then when you let them dry, or if you put them in like a bucket of cold water, then they kind of stiffen back up and they get rigid. And so Wonderflex is one that's very similar to Warbler, but Wonderflex has like a fabric grid on the inside, so you can't really get many curves, but it's still a very good material to use. Warbler is just the stuff, like the plastic stuff by itself, and so if you want to get, breastplates on your boobies or what have you, you could use that stuff. And the cool thing about it is that if you have a ton of scraps left, if you heat them all up, you could roll them back out and use it again, like almost like bread dough kind of. No waste. Yeah, I mean, like, Warbler used to only be available in Germany, and only recently has it started, like, making its way to the US. So now it's, like, all the big rage, and everyone's using Warbler, so I'm sure it's only a matter of time. It's going to be a very long talk, then.
Sure,
So,
that's good.
people know that I'm a huge Bioshock fan, and so I was always like, I can't do a little sister because I'm 5'9". And at the time, I was 17 years old, and the little sisters are like 9-year-old orphans. And so a lot of it was trying to create an illusion, like with my costume as well as with makeup, and then during a photo shoot, so I can make myself look like a creepy little orphan. So the sewing part wasn't too difficult. I found like a little girl's bodice pattern, and I altered it to fit a bigger person like me. And then I just made like a circle skirt pattern, add that on. I'm really particular with the way little sisters look, and with the way the silhouette of the dress looks. So I made sure to add like a petticoat and some tulle underneath so that it's not just laying flat on the skirt. Dyeing the fabric was kind of a pain because they have like these stripes on the dress pattern, and the fabric I bought was gray, and I was like, oh, I should be able to dye it purple really easily, right? Turns out my fabric was made out of polyester, and polyester is plastic, and so it's really hard to dye that kind of material unless you have a specific dye. And so I'd use the stuff that you use for like cotton and natural materials. It didn't work at all. And so after like 5 times of trying to dye it, I got this really weird sickly purple color, but it worked really well because all the spots I messed up on, I could like distress it and make it look dirty. And so I pretty much just went at the dress with, like, I rolled it out in, like, my backyard in the dirt to make it look really gross. Then I dragged it on the cement a little bit and just put, like, a ton of dirt and crowd to make it really dirty. And then for the syringe part, I actually looked at Volpin Props's tutorial. He made, like, a really awesome Big Daddy, and he actually sold it for, like, some crazy amount of money to some guy in, like, Singapore. And so there's some dude in Singapore walking around in a Big Daddy costume. But he had this really awesome step-by-step blog about how he made his syringe for his wife. And I pretty much looked at that and kind of interpreted it how I did it. And so he had bought a vintage gas pump from eBay, and I did the same thing. And my dad is an electrical engineer, so he helped me kind of finagle with the bits and put it together. And it was the first like real prop that I made that I was proud of, and actually didn't look like crap. So I was really happy with it. But no, I mean I like it a lot. It's actually sitting in my little Bioshock shrine in my room right now. With like all my art books and my skyhook and stuff. I have an addiction, I'm telling you. But yeah, it was really fun, and I love the process of it. And I love being dirty because, at conventions, like, you get to shake hands, everyone's, like, really freaked out with you because you have the yellow contacts, and you're just completely grimy and disgusting. It's awesome. I would say for me, I've only had maybe one or two costumes that I wore once and never wore again because I hated them. And it very rarely happens, and I think if it does happen, it's because I was stressed for time and I was trying to finish something really quickly. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, set a reasonable deadline for yourself and don't rush yourself, because then you're going to end up with something that you hate. And then you wasted all that money and time making it, and you're never going to wear it again. So it's definitely a really touchy and sensitive subject, because cosplay and just the nerd culture in general used to be kind of a place where people would come and seek refuge from, like, the bullying of the world. Like, I know for myself, when I started going to conventions, I was like, these are my people, they understand me. And now, cosplay is becoming almost industrialized and very commercialized, where, there's a TV show about it, and everyone, celebrities cosplay at conventions. And so I think it's a thing where it didn't used to be an issue. Everyone could cosplay, you could do what you wanted to do, but now we have people who are cosplay fans who don't cosplay, they don't understand cosplay, but they love to see, people dressed up in cosplay. And so when they see this character, or when they know a character and they see someone dressed up as this character and they don't immediately represent that character or look like them, they're like, oh, you suck, you're the worst cosplayer ever. When they don't understand that that person made that costume, they're really passionate for the character or the series, and it's, they just don't get it, why does that person look like this character? Like, they must suck at cosplaying. It's just those people don't understand. So I think that's why it's becoming more prevalent. I think it's always existed, but I think that's why nowadays there are people who don't understand cosplay because they don't do it. It's more of they sit on the outside and judge everyone else without actually trying it. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, cosplay in itself is very self-esteem based, because, like, not only are you making this, work of art, but you're also wearing it and modeling, and you're showing everyone. And so it could be really great if, like, you're going to a convention, people are taking pictures of you, and, like, you look great, I love that character, and you kind of bond. But then it could immediately go the opposite direction of, like, you suck, you don't look like that character, and just, like, one experience like that can totally ruin it for someone. And it sucks that it's becoming more prevalent nowadays, that people are getting those reactions. And so that's why I think it's really good to show that everyone can cosplay. It doesn't matter if you look like the character or not, It's just, like, do your thing. Like, do what you love, Don't let everyone hate you for it, because we all get hate.